English is a global language. Worldwide, 378 million people speak it as their native language, mostly from places like the UK or the United States. Another 400 million people use it as their secondary language. Think of places like India or South Africa and most other English colonies where English had a history there but never fully replaced the local language. On top of that, another 344 million people have the ability to speak English as a foreign language. Think of places like China or Japan, where English is taught as more of a skill to better integrate people into the world of business and other endeavors. In all, that makes 1.1 billion English speakers worldwide. And while it still has fewer native speakers than Chinese and Spanish, in terms of total speakers, English is the most popular language on the planet and has sort of become a lingua franca, or the common language of the world. Being so well known by so many people, some are surprised to learn that the English alphabet used to contain more letters. And in fact, one of English's most common sounds once had a letter of its own. Say hello to the forgotten letter of the English language, Thorn. It kind of looks like a lowercase b and p merged together, except that's not the sound it makes. Today, in English, we use the digraph th to represent just one sound, th. But 700 years ago, we just used Thorn, and this was an extremely useful letter to have. We use this sound all the time. Heck, I've already used it 36 times since starting this video. But more than that, in Middle English and even early modern English, Thorn was being used everywhere, and there were even abbreviations using Thorn to mean words like the, this, that, and thou. The word that also had its own letter at one point, which was just a thorn with a strike through its ascender, kinda like a T, but that one was kinda short-lived. So what happened to Thorn? Surprisingly, the answer has to do with geography. In the year 1439, a German goldsmith by the name of Johannes Gutenberg created something that revolutionized information and therefore the world. By assembling hand-molded metal matrices, he created a fast and precise mechanism through which type could efficiently be printed and reprinted onto sheets of paper. Or, in short, he invented the first true printing press. With the ability to quickly print text like books and especially Bibles, the transfer of ideas and information became rapid across Europe. It's analogous to the impacts the internet has had on our time, and the changes brought on by this development deserve a video of their own. But what does any of this have to do with the letter Thorn, or geography for that matter? Well, I mentioned earlier that Gutenberg was German, and so Germany was where most of the earliest printing presses were produced and operated. I also mentioned that the pieces used in the press were handcrafted, mostly by Germans as well, but later by Italians also. A quick look at the German alphabet and German words reveals a complete lack of any th sounds in their language. In fact, the modern German language is entirely devoid of the Thorn sound. This is why Germans and English don't think, they think. Any good German accent, which is not mine, will drop the th sound in favor of a z or s sound. So, whereas I'd say something like, the thought was to think theoretically, a German would say it like, sie thought was to think theoretically. And I'm sorry to any Germans watching that had to hear that, but you get the idea. Well, here's one more example anyway.
Over. We are sinking. We are sinking.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard.
We are sinking. We're sinking.
What are you thinking about?
So when the English gave the Germans their documents and books to print, a letter kept appearing that they didn't have a piece for because it wasn't used by them. But they were too smart to simply leave out the letter, so the Germans used what they thought was the next best letter, Y, as they kind of looked like each other, and Ys weren't being used very often, so confusion would be kept to a minimum. That's why old signs that say ye old whatever exist. It wasn't actually pronounced ye, they just didn't have the right letter at the time to say thee. This is also where the word you comes from, as it was previously thou or thou, but we kept that spelling and pronunciation for some reason. Then later, because just using Y made some confusing words, like imagine trying to spell the word thigh or time or worthy, the th came in to help ease the confusion, and that's how Thorn died. What's also interesting is that English is actually a Germanic language, closely related to modern German. In fact, the Angles, the people who eventually became the English or English, are originally from the North Shore of Germany, in a place called Anglia, or in German, England. That's right, most English people are basically just Germans. And while they lived on mainland Europe, their languages were roughly similar, if not exactly the same. It was only once the Angles migrated across the English Channel due to a collapsing Roman Empire and more fertile lands that their language began to feature the Thorn sound, while it never developed among mainland Germans. I should note that two other groups, the Saxons and the Jutes, from roughly the same area also came over during this time. These three Germanic tribes merged into the Anglo Anglo-Saxons, sorry Jutes, and dominated southern and eastern Britain. And it was only because the Anglo-Saxons were isolated geographically that Thorn made its way into use in the first place, as well as out. So it could be said that geography both created and destroyed the letter Thorn, in English anyway. In another way, however, geography has also preserved the letter Thorn. In only a single language offshoot today does Thorn still exist, and that's Icelandic. Because Iceland is so geographically isolated from Germany and the whole printing press revolution, Thorn was never altered into Y there. So even modern Icelanders will use Thorn in their writings, and even their computer keyboards feature the letter. They also still use a very similar letter, F, which makes virtually the same sound, which is why in English it was kinda just absorbed by Thorn at some point. It's the difference between the TH sound of thing, which Icelanders would write with a thorn, and this, which they'd write with an F. Yeah, I don't really hear it, but perhaps to the Irish, who came up with F, and now the Icelanders, there is a noticeable difference. So there you have it. That's how geography both created and destroyed and preserved the letter Thorn. So what do you think? Should we go back to using Thorn? And are there any other letters you think we should stop using? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, hey, why not give it a big old like and subscribe while you're at it? I'll be back next week with another video. Thanks.